Services. Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us here on Bloomberg. The government just reopened. Lawmakers are back to work, but it feels like that work is just beginning. I'd love to get your thoughts on if we are just careening towards the next government shutdown, as this stopgap measure only funds us through January 30th, and it feels like healthcare could be that pressure point again.
Well, I can tell you this, that my office has not stopped working since the government shut down. In fact, we've closed 100 cases, brought in millions of dollars back to our constituents. It's the Democrats who chose this chaos. Never before in the history of America has either party ever voted down a clean CR. Clean, with no partisan priorities. But Democrats wanted to put legislation discussion on the table and shut down our government, thus taking away food from families in need through SNAP, having mothers with children go without benefits, and, as you mentioned, federal employees on furlough not receiving paychecks, and putting a halt to government activities that affect everything from small businesses to the person who's applying for a Social Security card. It's simply unacceptable, and I'm glad the Democrats finally came to their senses.
Well, let's follow up a little bit more on this. You're in-house agriculture, and some states are saying that those families that need those food benefits aren't going to see their SNAP accounts replenished for the month of November for at least another couple of weeks. Do you think the administration should have put forth a plan to fully fund SNAP benefits if we knew that we were getting close to the shutdown?
Well, what we thought was that Democrats were going to act logically and work for the American people and vote yes on a clean CR. This is historic, that Democrats would put themselves first before the American people and shut down the government. It is them that caused these families that are so dependent on SNAP to not receive their benefits. In fact, what President Trump did was try to partially fund SNAP at the last moment because the Democrats kept kicking the ball forward and keeping the government shut. It's clearly unacceptable. And as you said, now it's going to take weeks, if not months, for the government to fully open. And unfortunately, some families will suffer because of the chaos that the Democrats caused. But I will tell you this. We are here in Washington, D.C. There are committees already working on the Hill to push these appropriation process forward so that we can get the bills passed before January 30th. I think we're all on the same page that that needs to be a priority, along with the credits, the enhanced premium credits that will sunset at the end of December. We all realize that this is important, and we're sitting at the table, both Republicans and Democrats, ready to tackle this issue.
It was the administration as well when it comes to SNAP benefits that went to the Supreme Court to compel a lower court to keep the administration from fully funding SNAP benefits. We've never heard of anything quite like that before, Congresswoman. Was that the right thing to do?
Well, we've never heard of Democrats voting no to a clean CR.
I know, but you've been talking about Democrats since you came on the air, Congresswoman. Was that the right thing for the administration to do, to not fund SNAP benefits and, in fact, go to court over this?
Well, I keep talking about Democrats because we would never even have this discussion if Democrats actually voted yes for a clean CR. So
okay, you've made that really clear. Should the administration have gone to the Supreme Court to not pay people who need food?
Well, I can tell you this, we would not even have this discussion if Democrats had done their job and voted yes on a clean CR, which historically they had never voted no to. In fact, they voted no 13 times to put those SNAP benefits as a priority for the American people and keep families fed. And it's unfortunate that they kept voting no. So we wouldn't even be having this discussion if they had done their job and voted yes on a clean CR.
But we are having this discussion. You're not going to answer that question?
Well, as I said, we would not have this discussion had Democrats voted for a clean CR. Absolutely historic and catastrophic that they would be that selfish to take food off of the table of needy families.
So the president should have gone to court then to block those SNAP benefits from being fulfilled.
So what should have happened is Democrats should have voted yes for a clean continuing resolution. That's what should have happened. And what ended up is the chaos that ensued over the last 6 weeks. Everything from federal employees not being paid, TSA employees not being paid. I mean, the list goes on and on. But as you noted, Democrats finally came to their senses yesterday and voted yes. Yes for the American people and yes to reopen this government. Now it's time for all of us to look forward and complete the appropriations process and look at the premium credits, enhanced premium credits that we need to discuss.
All right, Congresswoman, we'd love to keep the conversation going with you. Monica De La Cruz, a Republican from Texas on Bloomberg. We thank you for joining us.
Second term. Joining us now, a member of the Oversight Committee, Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi of Illinois. He's also a candidate for the U.S. Senate there in that state. Congressman, thank you for joining us this morning. Let's start with what came out yesterday. The emails that the House Oversight Democrats put out, but then later this flood from Republicans, which seemingly was intended to distract, but frankly, some of those emails didn't look all that great for President Trump either. So just what do you think, in your estimation, what did the American public learn yesterday?
Well, I think what they learned is that I think Donald Trump knows a lot more than what he's letting on. And I think the one email that really stands out is where Epstein says that Donald Trump, quote unquote, knew about the girls. OK, that is obviously directly opposite of what Donald Trump has claimed in terms of zero knowledge of what Jeffrey Epstein did. But just to level set, I think the one thing that I would just say, which is really providing the backdrop to what we're seeing right now, are the survivors and the victims. I met with them along with many members of the Oversight Committee. We met with them for 2.5 hours. It was some of the most gut-wrenching conversations I've ever had in Congress. And many of these people have no knowledge of the files, even documenting their own trauma because they lost memory of it. There are more than 1,000 victims. These are children who have yet to receive any justice after 2 decades of being traumatized. And so for their sake, but also to prevent this from ever happening again, we got to get to the bottom of what happened and get those files.
So, Congressman, that was my next question is, obviously, you don't know particulars. We haven't seen them yet. But what is, even in broad strokes, your understanding of what still is out there? What is the material that could be released were the House and Senate to vote for it?
I think there's a lot. Obviously, there's photographs. There's documents about financial transactions. I think that particular category itself is a tremendous trove of information that we need to get access to. Ron Wyden, the senator from Oregon, and financial institutions confirmed that there were more than $1 billion in transactions associated with this child sex trafficking ring. So knowing who paid whom and following the money will be very important for really getting to the bottom of what happened.
And Congressman, I'm wondering if you can pull at a thread for me here that I've been thinking a lot about when covering this story this week, especially on the heels of a shutdown when our growing income inequality has been in such stark relief. The thing about this story that really stands out to me is this continued pattern of there being a billionaire class and that class being protected and favored by Donald Trump, the story of have and have-nots. I mean, when you listen to these women who go on MSNBC and share their stories across media outlets and talk about what this has done to them, I mean, it really sets, I think, the scene for just the power disparity here. And I think we're seeing that consistently in a lot of different ways across this administration when it comes to recent policies and actions taken by the president. I mean, how do you see it?
100%. I think there are two systems of criminal justice. In this particular case, rich and powerful men who abused literally thousands of children and young girls have now escaped accountability for more than 2 decades, whereas other people are routinely, prosecuted and sentenced per our laws and rules and regulations. And so there are two justice systems. George Santos gets a pardon, whereas other people, languish in our prisons and don't necessarily get the same measure of leniency that someone like he does. So we are in that kind of system of unfairness right now.
Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi of Illinois. Congressman, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
As the record-setting government shutdown comes to an end, there's new drama here on Capitol Hill tonight over those newly released emails from Jeffrey Epstein and what they say about Donald Trump. I'm Caitlin Collins on Capitol Hill, and this is The Source. And as we come on the air tonight from the U.S. Capitol, the House of Representatives has voted to finally reopen the federal government. President Trump is expected to sign the bill, making it official live this hour. We'll bring that to you when it happens inside the Oval Office shortly. And with this return to D.C., for the House at least, comes new information about the story that the president has tried to shrug off, but just can't. Jeffrey Epstein mentioned Donald Trump by name multiple times in private emails over the last 15 years. Since we broke that news here early this morning, the White House has been in damage control mode, including a top-level meeting that happened inside the Situation Room. Yes, the National Security Nerve Center, where officials once monitored the bin Laden raid, was used today as part of a pressure campaign to block the release of the Epstein files in the possession of the Department of Justice. CNN's cameras spotted the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, actually leaving the White House after that meeting between top officials that included her and the FBI director and Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. It was the culmination of an ultimately unsuccessful effort to get Boebert and Congresswoman Nancy Mace to change their votes when it came to a discharge petition here on Capitol Hill to release the files that the DOJ has on Jeffrey Epstein. The press secretary described it, though, as a show of transparency on their part.
Doesn't it show transparency that members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please? Doesn't that show our level of transparency? Doesn't that show the level of transparency when we are willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns? That's a defining factor of transparency. Having discussions with members of Congress about various issues, and I'm not going to detail conversations that took place in the Situation Room.
The White House did confirm, CNN's reporting, that meeting was happening inside the Situation Room there. And that meeting happened today, just a couple of hours after we got new insight into the relationship between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. It includes an email that was turned over by Jeffrey Epstein's private estate to Congress, including one from April 2011, where Epstein wrote to Ghislaine Maxwell this: "I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Redacted spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there." Ghislaine Maxwell responded, "I have been thinking about that, ... Now, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee redacted the victim's name there. They said she was a victim of Jeffrey Epstein. That's why her name was not put out. Republicans, though, identified her as Virginia Giuffre. She is one of Jeffrey Epstein's most prominent accusers who died by suicide in April and wrote in her book about how her father worked as a maintenance worker at Mar-a-Lago and when she was introduced to Donald Trump and described him as friendly. In another email, this time when Trump was in office in 2019 in his first term, Jeffrey Epstein emailed the author Michael Wolff about Donald Trump, saying that he had asked Epstein to resign his membership at Mar-a-Lago. Epstein wrote then and said, "Trump said he asked me to resign, never a member ever. Of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop." That appears to be a reference to Maxwell recruiting employees at Mar-a-Lago, which the president has said he found out about and put a stop to.
He took people that worked for me, and I told him don't do it anymore, and he did it, and I said stay the hell out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Giuffre?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah, he stole her.
In another email that was released today, Epstein wrote about a young woman that he claimed he and Donald Trump both dated in the 90s, with Epstein writing about his, quote, 20-year-old girlfriend in 1993, and that Epstein, quote, gave her to Donald. Trump's association with Epstein has been long known in public, and he has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing when it comes to the late sex trafficker. But the president and his aides have been waging an intense pressure campaign that ultimately backfired here on Capitol Hill tonight, where that petition to force a vote on the release of the Epstein files now has all of the votes that it needs. The 218th vote came courtesy of the newest member of the House, Congresswoman Adelita Grijalva, who was sworn in today, 50 days after winning her election. Speaker Mike Johnson said tonight that that bill will get its vote here on Capitol Hill next week.
It's a totally pointless exercise. It is completely moot now. We might as well just do it. I mean, they have 218 signatures, that's fine, we'll do it.
The two members of Congress who have been leading the charge on this bill are my sources on the Hill tonight, Republican Congressman Thomas Massie and Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna. And thank you both for being here, obviously on a huge day for the two of you. I'll ask you, since he's the Republican House Speaker, he's calling it totally pointless exercise and completely moot. What do you make of his comments? Do you agree with those?
Well, the White House spent a lot of effort in the midst of a shutdown to stop a totally pointless exercise that's completely mute. And by the way, I got to give credit to Lauren Boebert to walk into the White House, the center of power, the free world, really, and to sustain that and to come back out and to be solid, and also to Nancy Mace and Marjorie Taylor Greene. There was all the speculation that they might take their names off, and they never did. So it's not a hoax. It's not a moot point. It is a very serious thing. There are 1,000 victims, and there are survivors who have had a press conference with Ro Khanna and I, and that's what we're fighting for, justice for them.
Did y'all talk to them at any point during this, as the White House was making clear they were targeting these members?
I talked to them. I don't want to say which one I had this conversation with, but one of them was told, we can't let Massie have a win. How petty is that? I mean, this is more than about political wins. It's about getting transparency and justice, which, by the way, this administration promised. You have the vice president, J.D. Vance, you have the AG, you have the FBI director. They've all done a 180 on this.
So the White House said to one of these members that they didn't want you to have a win here.
That's correct.
I mean, what does that say to you, Congressman Ro Khanna, as to the White House's motivation here? I mean, I think so many people look at this and say, why is the White House fighting this as hard as they are, and you know, taking Lauren Boebert into the Situation Room, which is incredibly unusual based on my experience covering the White House?
They've really lost their way, because it was really Donald Trump, and more than Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, who in podcast after podcast said, release the Epstein files. And I give credit, of course, to the courage of Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert. They met with the survivors. It was personal. But I also give credit to Congressman Thomas Massie. I mean, he's got 3 billionaires literally pouring millions of dollars in his race against him to take him out simply because he wants these files released, which the president campaigned on. And you know what? The left and right are agreeing on one thing. It's time to get rid of the Epstein class, these rich and powerful people who rig the rules for themselves and ignore forgotten Americans.
So how many Republicans do you think are going to vote for this next week when Speaker Johnson brings it to a vote?
I think there's going to be a deluge of Republicans. The longer this goes on, the more support we gain. And I think the Speaker recognized that. And that's why, after months of trying to stop us, he's decided to accelerate the vote, because he knows we're going to get votes. And that's going to carry momentum into the Senate. And that's why it's important to get a big vote in the House for Ro and I on this measure, is because that's where it goes next, is the Senate.
Yeah, so what happens here when it goes, if it passes and it does have that deluge of Republicans? I know you said today you thought 40 to 50 could potentially vote for it. Is that right?
Well, I think the Speaker's concluded if you can't stop the parade, you might as well lead it. And so now he's saying, I want to have the vote. I do think that you could get 30, 40, 50 Republicans voting for it, because what are we talking about? We're talking about rich and powerful men who abused young girls and told people in junior high to go recruit others to be raped or abused. That's what we're talking about. And we're saying that these victims want to expose the men who did this to them. Some of these men still have buildings named after them. Some of them still have scholarships named after them. Enough. And so I think when it's actually a vote on the House floor, do you want these files released? Republicans and Democrats are going to vote yes.
So what does it say if that happens and there are that many people who are in the House who vote for it and the Senate doesn't take it up?
Well, we used a discharge petition. This is a parliamentary procedure that's only available in the House. It's only been successful maybe 20 times in the history of our country. Like, we had a 4% probability, if you look at statistics, of getting this to the floor, but we succeeded. In the Senate, They don't have a discharge petition, but they do have other ways. Each senator is almost like their own rules committee over there. And by being dilatory or accelerating the process for other senators, they can cajole them into getting votes. And I think we could see a vote on this in the Senate.
Why do you think the president keeps calling it a hoax, as he did again today? And he basically said no real Republicans, no good Republicans that aren't stupid or bad would fall for this trap.
It's sad to me because I actually didn't do this to score points against Donald Trump. I know Representative Massie didn't do it for that reason. We did it because we heard the stories of these survivors and we want justice for them. They're going to be out in front of the Capitol again on Tuesday. They were out about 2 months ago. And my guess is they're going to say the same thing. Mr. President, please meet with us. Listen to us. You can actually release these files. And I rather Donald Trump do the right thing, even if he gets a political win, than for us to go on ignoring women who have been abandoned before Trump's presidency. These women have not had justice for decades.
So you're saying it's bigger than Donald Trump?
It's much bigger than Donald Trump.
Because the White House is saying this is something Democrats didn't talk about when Joe Biden was in office, which we've asked you about before, and said that that's the whole motivating factor here. But you say that that's not the case for you either?
No, and I think Roe can go back and find examples where he talked about these files. I can go back in my social media and show you examples where I talked about these files needing to be released before President Trump was the president. And I don't think it's about Trump. I looked at
also, so did President Trump, for the record.
Yes, he did, for the record.
And J.D. Vance.
Yeah, and members of the cabinet.
I looked at those emails there, and I don't think that implicates Trump any more than he's already been implicated. And I don't think he's trying to protect himself, per se. I think he's beyond embarrassment. Look, I was in an oversight committee when we were arguing, should he have paid the prostitute he had an affair with through campaign funds, or should he have used his personal funds? He's beyond embarrassment. That's what these files could present to him. I think there are people who are criminally implicated that aren't Donald Trump, but they may be his friends, and I think that's who he's trying to protect.
So you think he's just trying to cover up for other people?
For other people, and also probably for our own intelligence agencies.
But when you read that email from the 2011 email that Jeffrey Epstein wrote to Ghislaine Maxwell, who is obviously serving her sentence right now, and he says that Trump is the dog that hasn't barked, I wonder what you read into that.
I think he's probably saying that why haven't they asked Trump anything? Why hasn't Trump spoken? But, the reason this cuts right at Trump's message is people knew he wasn't perfect when they elected him. People knew he had a lot of things in his past, but he promised, he said, look, I may not be perfect, but I'm going to take on the corrupt elite. I'm going to take on these people who just pay off politicians and have impunity and are shafting you. And now he's become part of Washington, and people are like, what happened to him? Why has he become part of the swamp that he said he would drain? And so, in my view, what would redeem him after months of dragging this out is to release the files. For the life of me, I don't understand why he just doesn't release the files, and let's have the left and the right come together to say enough with the Epstein class. They need to go.
Yeah, and
I could be wrong, but I look at that email and about dogs barking. It's cryptic. Maybe they suspected he was going to inform on them. I don't know.
Okay, so you're saying there could be other interpretations.
Yeah.
I do want to clarify something, which I'm not sure I've clarified before, but Stormy Daniels isn't a prostitute. She's a porn star that alleged to have slept with the president at the center of that agreement. But on this front,
By the way, I say both should be legal.
When it comes to, that's a conversation for another time, but when it comes to the motivation here and how MAGA voters feel about this, I mean, you speak to these people, you're someone who has been outspoken against the White House, but you don't generally disagree with some of the things that President Trump does or has run on policy-wise. How do you explain to voters why the president is fighting your discharge petition or fighting the release of these documents from the Justice Department?
Well, I vote with my party 91% of the time, and which means I have agreed with the president 91% of the time. But when they're protecting pedophiles, when they are blowing our budget, when they are starting wars overseas, I'm sorry, I can't go along with that. And back home, people agree with me. They understand, even the most ardent Trump supporters understand sometimes he gets bad advice, sometimes he gives bad advice, and we wouldn't model our lives after him, his personal life. And they're okay with that. I mean, you can still like Donald Trump in Kentucky and like what I'm doing and what Ro Khanna is doing, which is trying to get transparency.
Well, and we were watching Adelita Grijalva be sworn in today, and as soon as she was sworn in, she walked over and signed this discharge petition. Seconds later, you went up and shook her hand, as you noted, before any other Democrats had actually even ever gotten over to her side.
You couldn't hear what I said, but I apologized to her for what my own party did, which was to keep her from being sworn in and depriving an entire congressional district of representation for 49, 50 days, which, I won a special election myself. I think I was sworn in within a week, and there was no reason to delay this other than the petty thing that now the speaker is accelerating. He tried to delay this vote. He deprived a congressional district of a congressperson. And now he says, well, okay, I guess I lost. We'll have the vote next week.
Do you think?
Go ahead.
Do you think the White House has made this, and Speaker Johnson, by delaying swearing her in, has given this more attention? I mean, you said, according to your math, that 4% chance of this actually succeeding. Do you think they've actually done the opposite of what they intended to do here?
I do. I think they miscalculated. I think they thought they could bully people off the petition. Obviously, they tried. They invited members of Congress to the Situation Room, and I think they thought the media would forget about it. But Caitlin, there are a lot of days you're in Congress. I've been in Congress 9 years, where you start to wonder: is it worth it? It's frustrating. You don't get anything done. I've voted against President Trump probably 98% of the time, and yet Thomas Massie and I came together. And we actually achieved something that's going to get justice for victims. And, Massie probably will never vote for me, and I won't vote for him. But it shows that you can have functional politics that achieves things when you build a broad coalition. And we need more of that in Washington. We're
going to see President Trump this hour signing that bill to reopen the federal government. What would you say to him when it comes to, if you were advising him, which I know you're not, but if you were on how to handle the Epstein situation going forward?
I would say there's still time to be a hero. Speaker Johnson has decided to pull the Band-Aid off. Trump could one-up him and say, well, Johnson wants to have the vote Wednesday. I want to release the Epstein files Tuesday. And he could literally be a hero. And he would bring back his base, which he's alienated a lot of his base with his statement that you're no longer my supporter, and you never were if this is what you're for. But he could also bring over some Democrats and independents. I know he doesn't have to run again for office, but we do, and our parties do. And I think it would behoove the Republican Party, frankly, if he would show leadership on this.
You're saying it could hurt Republicans in the future if they vote against this when Trump is no longer in office?
Yeah, the promise now to my colleagues, my Republican colleagues, they're handing out Trump endorsements like Pez candy over here in the Capitol and saying, take one of these and it'll protect you from the Epstein vote. The problem is this Epstein vote, the record is going to last longer than Trump's presidency. And so what are you going to do in 2028 or 2030 when he's no longer president and you sit in a debate either with a Democrat or another Republican and they say, why should we trust you? You voted to protect pedophiles. That will be a mark on your record forever if you vote against our resolution when we force this vote.
The last time I had y'all on, you both predicted you'd get to 218 when some people were doubting that you actually would. Do you predict tonight that these files will ultimately be released by the Justice Department?
I do. How much? I don't know, but I do, because the American people are not letting this go. They are dialed in. And Epstein has become something even broader than justice for survivors. It's become a symbol for everything that's wrong in Washington, that if you have extreme wealth and you buy up a couple of politicians, then you can have bankers who help you, then you can get deals that help you, and the rules don't apply to you even if you're raping underage girls. And that's unacceptable. That's the line Americans draw. Like, you can do a lot of bad things. You can't rape and abuse underage girls.
Congressman Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, thank you both for being here again tonight on such a big day for this.
Thanks, Kayla.
Great to have you both.
I don't want to hear about the affordability. I don't want to hear about the affordability.
The ballroom is really the president's main priority. The ballroom is really the president's main priority.
They've seen their grocery prices go up.
No, you're wrong. Yes, it's higher. Steel prices are up.
but it's for the good of the country.
Food prices always go up.
The ballroom is really the president's main priority.
I don't want to hear about the affordability.
You shouldn't hold the American people hostage in order to make policy changes.
Here we go. It's Fuego 106.7. It is Rico on your radio. I got the one and only special guest of honor today, Senator Ruben Gallego. How are you, sir?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
You know what? I'm not going to say sir because we're the same age.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me, what's it like being in a radio station studio like this one right now?
I mean, you got a lot of stuff going on here, but you know, I like it. It's got a little mixture of Latino, Chicano, and then I don't even know what else this is going on here with Krusty the Clown. But you know what? It's still good, man.
It's like pop culture.
Yeah, exactly. Pop culture overload.
All right, let's get into this, man. We obviously know you're Senator Ruben Gallego, so we know there's the politic aspect of you that a lot of people know if they follow you on social media.
Yeah.
My thing is, we're working in radio, so my job is to have fun, and I want people to get to know the more fun side of Senator Ruben Gallego. So let's talk about playlists.
Playlists, yeah.
Now, I'm curious to this because I know every senator probably has to go. You know, when you go to the house and all that stuff. Like, what do you guys do? Do you guys have like an intro song you walk into in your head?
A walk-in song?
Yeah. Do you have like a playlist that you listen to hype yourself up before you go?
Well, it just depends what's going on that day, right? Yeah. So, like for example, if I'm like, you know what, I have to wait. Can I swear on this? I can't swear. No, can't swear. No swear. We're live. Right? Okay, we're not swear. Oh, we are live.
Yeah, we're live.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Okay, mira. So here's what happens, right? So it depends on my mood, right? So like for example, if I have to go feel like I gotta fight somebody, you know, one of my favorite songs is like Los Fabulosos Cadillac. Matador. Okay. It's an old song. Yeah, it's actually by 1994 or something like that, right? Okay. If I'm feeling a little smoother, I could do like Juanes, you know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you know, it just depends on it. Like right now, I really love hearing, obviously. My man, Bad Bunny is pissing off everybody, which is funny.
Can you believe that still?
I can't believe it. Well, the craziest part is like, oh, we got to listen to American. He is American. He's Puerto Rican. I was in the Iraq war with Puerto Ricans. They weren't fighting for the Iraqis. I mean, like, just like, what's going on here?
I don't get it, man.
I know. And then, of course, Karol G.
I heard you're a big fan.
Because I'm half Colombian.
Oh, okay. I see.
So I'm half Colombian, half Mexican.
There we go.
Yeah. So dad's side's Mexicano, mom's side's Colombiana.
Awesome.
And but you know, she's just a great artist, and she's gonna be at Coachella, and I'm not allowed to go to Coachella, so it kind of sucks. But you know, very proud she could be there.
There's a lot of things that now you're a senator. You know, you're a senator, so there's a lot of places you really don't want to go to. And
no, there's a lot of places I want to go to, but I shouldn't go to. There's a difference, right? Yeah, totally different. Yeah.
Now let me ask you this, because you are half Mexicano.
Half Mexicano.
So, and I'm pretty sure Colombianos do the same.
Yeah.
Carne asadas.
Different.
Okay.
So the carne asada on the Mexican side, way better than the Colombian side. The Colombians are less into spiciness, and I just think they have like hay mejor vacas en México que hay en Colombia.
Okay.
Porque Colombia son todas montañas.
Oh,
right?
Ándale.
And so,
muy delgadas.
Yeah, muy delgadas, yeah. Y mi familia es de Chihuahua también, Chihuahua, México, donde hay muchas vacas. Oh, yeah, ¿qué parte de Chihuahua? Parral. Oh, yeah. No, so my family's from San Jose del Sitio area.
Okay.
San Jose del Sitio, Santa Ana, and todo. Yeah, Parral's beautiful, man. It's where Pancho Villa got killed.
That's where he got assassinated.
Yeah.
Our family has a ranch out there, the Rancho Perlas Blancas.
Oh, really?
That's what it's called.
Yeah, I grew up in a little ranchito for a little bit when I was in that was Santa Ana. Just outside San Borjas, Chihuahua. It was cool. Growing up, look, you know, like I was a little country boy. I got my little horse and everything else like that. It was a great life, man. It was a great life.
Hey, you don't hear a U.S. senator say that.
No.
That's the cool thing. That's what makes you so distinct and so different. I love it. You're a Latino U.S. senator. You're one of ours, and you're there repping. And I love following you on social media. I saw the book that you gifted recently, which is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
I love the whole video.
About the pedophiles?
Yes, sir. I love all that. I love that you do that. You stick up. You use your voice. You're there representing us, man. Now, let's go back to the carne asadas. Okay. I love doing this with all my guests. I ask them a funny question. Now, who would you invite to your carne asada? You could pick 3 people, dead or alive artists.
Dead or alive artists?
Who would they be and why?
Okay. Johnny Cash.
Oh, I like it.
Come on.
Okay.
Imagine the conversation that you could have with them. That man's seen it all, lived it all, done it all, right?
Okay, Johnny Cash.
Selena. Because think about it, right? Selena, she got taken out of her prime.
Left us too soon.
Left us too soon. Like, she was just about to hit it, and then she left. So, I think that would be a really good mix, like, especially because, like, she could really tell us where, like, she was going to go with her music or everything else like that. My last one... You know what? I'm going to throw old school, throwback. Some of you guys may not even know this. You saw this movie, Pedro Infante.
I love Pedro Infante.
Yeah, but Pedro Infante, we never got to see him grow big either, right?
He died in his prime too.
Right,
In his peak,
right?
The late 50s.
The late 50s, yeah. But like, think about like how much an impact he had on our culture, right? And I think that was it. I would say someone like Karol G, but then my wife would divorce me. So we're not going to do that, to be honest. Yeah.
Safe move.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we're going to cut the music really quick. We'll be back with more with Senator Ruben Gallego here live on Fuego. Fuego 106.7 AM. Sitting here with Senator Ruben Gallego. Before we wrap things up, I want to ask you a question like this. Now, let's go back. Let's go back in time. And what would you tell 13-year-old little Ruben? If I could call you little Ruben.
Yeah.
Little Ruben back then. What would you tell him? What advice would you give him then about what you know now, growing up?
Keep believing in yourself. I mean, I think at 13, I had already decided that I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get a scholarship. I'm going to be rich. That's what I thought. Not rich now, but I get to serve my country and I'm very stable. But, I was poor. I was sleeping on the floor. My mom was the secretary. She was a great mom, took care of me and my 3 sisters. But, we weren't rich. And, the idea of going to college was something that was kind of like a far out idea. But I remember at 13, because that's my 8th grade year, I remember sitting down and really rationalizing, thinking to myself, you know what, the next 4 years are going to matter. And either I can choose to not believe in myself, or I can believe in myself, work hard for 4 years, and just change the whole trajectory of my life and my family's life. And I, except for my family, I had a lot of people that didn't believe in me. And but none of that would have mattered if I didn't believe in myself first. And it really made a big difference. And I think about 13-year-old Ruben all the time, because it was a rough year, 13. I was still sleeping on the floor. I mean, I didn't get my first bed till I went to college. And so it made me, I think about that boy, that Latino boy, my Latina sisters at that age, and how I could influence them now as part of my job as a U.S. Senator, because there's a lot of little Ruben Gallegos out there, or Alejandra, Lisa, or Laura, or even my mom, Elisa, who want to have a chance at the future, and they need someone like me to be looking out for them.
Awesome, man. Love it. I love it. I got a 13-year-old son, and I tell him, dude, start playing about college now. Start it now.
Well, listen, and here's the thing. The reason I thought about it is because I heard 13-year-old rich white kids talking about college. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm just as smart as them. Why isn't anybody talking to me about college? Mm-hmm. And I put it upon myself, though, to do it, because no one else is going to do it for me.
And you're a Harvard grad.
Harvard grad.
Congratulations.
Gracias.
And thank you for your service, former Marine.
Yeah.
Appreciate that as well.
My pleasure.
And this is so cool. Now, I'm a DJ. I DJ. I'm a radio personality, but I DJ on the as a side hustle.
Yeah.
What would be your DJ name if you were ever a DJ?
Oh, shoot. Isn't there a little AI contraption? You got to...
You can enter give me a cool DJ name.
¿Cómo es?
I'm DJ Rico.
¿Por qué Rico? Okay, why?
That's a nickname that I got.
That's just a nickname?
That's a nickname, yeah. And I'm actually friends with Gerardo Mejia, too, the original.
Yeah,
I'm friends with him, too. He's a pastor now.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But what would be your DJ name if you could pick one?
If I pick one.
And if you ever need a DJ, let me know.
Actually, we do. Yeah, we do. We hire a lot of locals for a lot of things. I'd say, that's a good one. I would probably go DJ Fuego or so. Wait, because I just saw that. That's why. No, that's too easy. Let me see. I don't know how to say it, but people used to describe me as a bulldog, because I'm I'm small, but I'm ferocious, right? And I'm once I latch on, I don't let go. So, no, ¿qué es la palabra en español por eso?
Aferrado.
Ferrado? No, ¿qué es aferrado? ¿Qué es bulldog en español? Bulldog. Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe it's just DJ Bulldog.
You're just there you go.
Ahí está bien, yeah.
DJ Dog.
But I am DJ Bullpig, casi, ¿verdad? Bullpig. Yeah. Porque we do that, right? DJ Bulldog. That meets me more.
There you go. Send a shout out to everybody that's listening to you live right here in the Valley. Let them know, where they can follow you on social media también, how they can support.
Yeah, me pueden encontrar como at Ruben Gallego. I think on Instagram, on Twitter, you just have to look up Ruben. Just look at my stuff right now. I think just look me up on Ruben Gallego. We're on all the channels and everything else like that. If you ever need anything for your family, you got to remember what we deal with is Social Security, immigration, VA bills, Medicare, stuff like that. Anything you think the federal government can affect you, reach out to our office, send us a message. We're here to take care of you in Arizona.
Awesome. Thank you, Senator.
Yeah,
I
gracias,
appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Mucho gusto.
Yeah, mucho gusto.
All right, it's Fuego 106.7.
Over the summer, Donald Trump's deputy attorney general and former personal lawyer, can't say that together too many times, Todd Blanche, met twice with Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted sex trafficker and, of course, accomplice of Jeffrey Epstein's. And in those interviews, Maxwell put distance between Trump and Epstein, saying that she did not recall ever seeing Trump in Epstein's home. Except in Epstein's own email to Maxwell back in 2011, released just yesterday by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee, Epstein admitted that Trump did indeed visit one of his homes. Now, maybe she didn't see, but Maxwell's response to Epstein to that email was, quote, "I have been thinking about that." Really makes you wonder about just how honest Ghislaine Maxwell was in those interviews, and why Todd Blanche never brought up this piece of evidence in his interviews with Maxwell in the first place. Well, today, Todd Blanche admitted on Twitter that despite being the number 2 person at the Justice Department, he did not have that evidence at the time. Posting, quote, "When I interviewed Maxwell, law enforcement didn't have the materials Epstein's estate hid for years and only just provided to Congress." And let's just say I have a lot of questions about that admission. Joining me now is Senator Adam Schiff, who sits on the Judiciary Committee, and I'm betting has a lot of questions about that admission, too. Let's just start there. I mean, in that post, Todd Blanche confirmed something that I think, even in this age of a lot of stunning things, should be stunning, that he didn't have all the information when he interviewed Maxwell. What did that tell you?
Well, this goes to a central question about that whole interview, and that is, why didn't Todd Blanche actually bring someone familiar with the case? One of the prosecutors who had handled the case, that would know the facts, that would know when Maxwell was lying, when she was telling the truth. Now, one of those prosecutors was James Comey's daughter, who was fired from the Justice Department. But he brought no one who knew the facts and no one who could press Maxwell, test whether she's telling the truth. That, of course, was deliberate, because getting the truth from Maxwell was not the object. Getting an exonerating statement, exonerating testimony for Donald Trump was the object. And, of course, it appears that that resulted in Maxwell being transferred to this, minimum security concierge service providing institution that is not suitable for sex offenders. So on the one hand, it raises profound questions about why Blanche wasn't prepared and didn't know the facts. But more than that, it really underscores what Amanda said, and that is, we need a real investigation here. If they didn't have the emails from the estate, it's because Kash Patel didn't ask for them, didn't subpoena them, didn't want them. I think we see in these emails that are now dribbling out just why Bondi and Patel don't want to release what they already have and don't want to do the thorough investigation that was apparently never done by the government.
I have so many questions for you about this trove of emails, which I'm sure you haven't read all 23,000 pages. But just, I know we're living in a time where what the consequences that should happen don't always happen. We obviously can't unwind and go back in time and have Todd Blanche bring someone with him. As you said, he didn't intend to do that clearly. Ghislaine Maxwell, as you said, was transferred to a more minimum security prison where she's apparently playing with puppies and taking yoga classes. What should happen? You said an investigation should happen. In normal times, obviously, she should be transferred back, right? What else should happen given these revelations from these emails that she seemed to have lied multiple times?
Well, we should be doing oversight in Congress. Republicans should be helping to do that oversight to find out who made the decision to transfer her to this, sort of cushy prison. Who made that call? When I asked Kash Patel about it in the Judiciary Committee, he claimed that it was the Bureau of Prisons, and the Bureau of Prisons made that decision on their own. He knew nothing about it. The Justice Department wasn't involved somehow. That was the import of his testimony. That just doesn't pass the credibility test. So, number one, we need to do oversight in Congress. But number two, the Justice Department needs to do a real investigation. They need to release publicly what they have. These emails have already shed, I think, some significant light. I was really struck by something Donald Trump said over the summer when he acknowledged having a falling out with Epstein because Epstein was taking girls from Mar-a-Lago. And I remember asking myself, what did he think Epstein was doing with those girls? And now we see one of those emails that just came out makes reference to this when Epstein, I think, is telling Maxwell or telling someone else in those emails, well, of course he knew. That's why there was essentially this dispute over taking girls from Donald Trump or from Mar-a-Lago. So these emails are already shedding light. The White House is engaged in its usual sort of blitzkrieg of denials, but there needs to be a real investigation here, a serious investigation.
There's so many emails to your point, and I think reporters and committee members and staff are still going through them. I want to ask you about one of them specifically that I don't think I paid as much attention to yesterday, but I did today, and I think a lot of people did. It's the one where Jeffrey Epstein says about Donald Trump, I am the one able to take him down. What do you think that means?
Well, I think the import is I know information on Donald Trump that the public hasn't seen yet, and it is very incriminating. This is, I think, where he refers also to it as the dog that hasn't barked. That is the information that isn't out there yet. So clearly he believes he has something that is valuable to him as potential extortion of Donald Trump, but also would be extremely damaging to the president. And probably a thorough investigation would reveal just what that is. If Epstein put it in writing to someone else or if there was physical evidence of that in the files.
If the House votes to release the Epstein files next week, and it sure looks like it will, Donald Trump will have to count on Republicans in the Senate to stop this from getting to his desk. And even then, he might have some problems.
I just don't think this issue is going to go away until that issue is addressed and answered to the American people's satisfaction. Yeah. And I may end up with a sombrero on my head for saying that, but that's the way I see it.
That's, of course, a reference to the video, the AI video that Trump did about Hakeem Jeffries. But back with me, of course, is Senator Adam Schiff. Now, it looks like, let's just talk about the mechanics of this, because it looks like there could be a lot of Republican support on the petition in the House. I'm going to talk to your California colleague, Ro Khanna, about that in just a moment. But what are you expecting to happen when it lands in the Senate?
Well, I would expect they will do everything they can to fight that passing in the Senate. And we're going to do what we can to make sure that that gets taken up. There are a number of tactics we can use in the Senate to compel a vote. We have compelled votes, for example, in the Judiciary Committee about releasing the Epstein files. Those votes didn't succeed, but I'm glad to hear Senator Kennedy, who sits on the Judiciary Committee with me, make comments like that, because it does show that some of the Republicans want this information to be public. They want to know who is responsible, who should be held accountable. So we will explore whatever methods, whatever tools we have to force votes on this. It is simply not going to go away. And I think the more the White House lets this drip, 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 the more they're going to wish they had just, released things and stop this campaign of, fighting disclosure, denial, followed by implausible denial, followed by implausible denial.
So there's, just to put a fine point on that, there's not a discharge petition process in the Senate, but there are ways to compel or to push for votes even without Senate Majority Leader Thune, who seems not inclined to do it at this moment. Is that right? Through a committee process?
Well, you can often force votes on things in committee. Forcing votes on the floor is a little bit more challenging. Some things are privileged, and we'll certainly explore whether there's anything privileged that can be made to fit disclosure of the Epstein files. But even if there isn't, there are ways to both negotiate. Okay, we're going to not put up a fight on this if you don't put up a fight on voting for that, or at least allowing us a vote on that. There is leverage that we can use. Now, as we have seen, the leverage is limited. We are very much in the minority. But we can make it very difficult in the Senate for Senate Republicans if they continue to go along with the president's concealment campaign.
And people can advocate to their senators at the same time, too. Let me ask you, obviously, there's a hurdle to get this through, which is why I wanted to talk to you about this. Let's just talk about if this were to become law, because I think it's important for people to understand what it could do. The House Oversight Committee is, of course, with bipartisan support, issued subpoenas to get information. We've seen information released. The information that came out yesterday came from the Epstein estate. There's more coming on that front. If this were to pass, this discharge petition, if it were to pass and become law, what's the difference between the information that could come from this and the information that the committee is getting through the subpoena process?
Well, it would mean that the whole universe of information that's in the government's possession would be released, redacting names and other things to protect the privacy of victims. That would be the most fulsome disclosures. What the committees have had to do is go to outside parties like the estate, the Epstein estate, to get records. They might be getting some records from the administration, but clearly the administration is cherry-picking what they provide to Congress. So this would end the cherry-picking of information. Now, I would fully expect, just given what we've seen of the Trump administration and their tactics, that if this passes both houses, of course, they'll veto it. And if somehow we were able to override a veto, they would challenge it in court as, with some false claim of constitutionality or unconstitutionality. They would try to draw this out beyond the president's term if they can. So this is a hugely important step in the House because it forces people to go on record whether they're going to continue to be part of this cover-up. And hats off to Ro Khanna and Representative Massie for leading this charge. But it's a hard road ahead. Nevertheless, forcing these votes is a form of important accountability.
No question, including in the Senate. It's powerful to see where people stand. And it's important for people to understand the hurdles because there's a lot of other levers that need to keep being pushed as well. Senator Adam Schiff, thank you as always for joining me.
All right, joining us now, Republican Senator of Louisiana, John Kennedy, sits on the Senate Judiciary and Appropriations Committees, among others. Senator, thank you so much for being here. How do you respond to those comments from Thomas Massie that essentially, if you vote to cover up for pedophiles, you've got cover in a Republican primary? He's essentially saying the president is going to help people who vote with him and vote not to release these files.
Well, here is the way that my people here in Louisiana see it, Casey. My people think, and I agree with them, that Epstein was a pig, a P-I-G pig. My people think that this is no country for creepy old men. My people believe, and I think they're right, that Epstein trafficked young women, some of whom were minors, to himself. But here's the issue. My people want to know who else, if anyone, did Epstein traffic young women to? And if they were punished, how were they punished? And if they weren't punished, why? Now, President Trump has turned that issue over to Attorney General Bondi. And I don't know how she is going to answer that question for the American people without releasing all the records. Maybe she can, but I just don't think this issue is going to go away until that issue is addressed and answered to the American people's satisfaction. Yeah. And I may end up with a sombrero on my head for saying that, but that's the way I see it.
Sir, if this passes the House, and based on Manu's numerous interviews with Republicans, it sounds like this is going to pass, potentially overwhelmingly. Should the Majority Leader, John Thune, put this on the Senate floor?
I don't know what Senator Thune will do. I don't know what he'll put on the Senate floor. The Senate has this rich history, for better or worse, of doing its own resolution. So I don't know what if any, Thune. I think he'll put it on the floor. I think this issue has got to be resolved one way or the other. Unless,
and how would you vote on it?
Before, it depends on what the resolution says. I'm labor, not management, Casey. Thune's going to draft it however he wants to draft it.
If it says what the House bill says, release all the files, would you vote for that?
I'm not going to answer that because I don't think it'll be identical to the House if Thune indeed puts it on the floor. But I just don't see how this issue is going to go away. Maybe Justice can answer the question, but I asked Kash Patel in front of God and Country in committee. I asked him. I said, "Look, who else, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to?" And he said, "We have no evidence of anyone. It's not there." Well, I don't know how you prove that without releasing all the files.
I understand that the language is going to be different, and I'm sorry to keep circling back to this, but just to put a finer point on it, if a bill to release the Epstein files, to force the Department of Justice to release the Epstein files, came to the Senate floor as a general matter, would you vote yes?
as a general matter, I think I've said repeatedly, I think they ought to. I don't think this is going to go away, and as a moral principle, I think they ought to release the records.
Fair enough. Do you think that there's enough Republicans in the Senate who feel similarly to you to have this bill pass in the Senate, or a version of this bill, I should say?
I don't know. I suspect every Democrat will vote for it. I don't know. We haven't talked about it much in the Senate. We've kind of been dealing with this shutdown. I think some Republicans will, some Republicans won't. But I just don't think the issue is going to go away until it's addressed by Ms. Bondi, to whom the president has assigned the problem. And I don't have a solution for her. I don't know what the answer is for her to do other than release the documents. I don't have a solution. I certainly admire the problem, but I don't have a solution.
We heard Thomas Massie there speaking to his colleagues and say, listen, this vote that you're going to take is going to last longer than President Trump's term, right? This is something that's going to be on your record if you go into the future after Trump has left office. Do you think that seems to imply that President Trump is a lame duck? Do you think President Trump's a lame duck at this point?
Well, he can't run again, yes.
And do you think the Republican Party is treating him as such? Because for much of the first year, he's not been treated the way a lame duck president often is.
Well, I don't know how to answer that, Casey. I mean, to some extent, every president is a lame duck because there's no guarantee they'll be reelected. But in this instance, I think the Constitution's pretty clear that a president, whomever it might be, can only serve 2 terms. Now, the president's only in the first year of his second term, so he's not a lame duck in the sense that he's got 3 more years. I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't consider him a lame duck. Now, if he had 30 days left to serve, yeah, he'd be a lame duck.
I suppose I'm asking in the political sense, right? At what point do people start acting more in their own interests than that of the president because they can see more clearly the future beyond him than the one that they're sitting with him that moment? But unfortunately, we're out of time, so I'm going to have to leave it there. Senator John Kennedy, thank you very much for your time, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Casey.
Chairman Jason Smith. Chairman, it's great to see you. What's your reaction to this? Politico is reporting Democrats are furious the shutdown ended. Are they going to do it again in January?
You know, I expect the unexpected with the Democrats. That's the best way to say it, Liz. Like we said all along that why would you want to shut down all of government services because you want to spend an additional $1.5 trillion in spending and hundreds of billions of dollars for illegals and health care. So let's just make sure that every hardworking taxpayer hurts. That's what the Democrats did, which is absolutely ridiculous and insane. And you know what? What they ultimately agreed to that opened up government and caused the 5 Democrats to switch from a no to a yes to stop the filibuster was exactly what Leader Thune offered before the government shutdown. So they absolutely got nothing other than a lot of egg on their face.
Yeah, so now Democrat Senator Krishnamoorthi told Fox News Digital Democrats are talking about new leadership besides Senator Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer looks to be in trouble with his position in the Senate. He's saying, quote, the Democrats want to make sure that the party does not continue to break apart. But this is really socialism on the rise in the Democrat Party. Isn't the government already in a socialist kind of way of operating? $38 trillion in debt, the Medicare, Social Security in trillions of dollars in debt. We have Medicaid that is basically a socialist kind of features to it. There's like 100 U.S. programs that are socialist.
You know, anyone in Washington, D.C. knows that Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are not the leaders of their party. The leaders of their party are AOC, Tlaib, Omar, Mamdani. That is what is the base of the Democrat Party. And so if they want new leadership, they need to get rid of AOC and Tlaib, Omar, because they are the true leaders that have dictated this entire government shutdown.
Yeah, but these socialists have no growth strategies to help pay down the $38 trillion in interest on that debt. Thank you so much, Chairman Jason Smith. It's good to see you. Now to this.
Good to be.
The can down the road until January 30th. So we're looking at like another month plus of travel chaos, workers not getting paid, Americans not getting their food stamps, and at the end of January?
Well, what this bill will do will reopen the government so that workers are getting paid, so that TSA agents are getting paid, and air traffic controllers are as well. You know, it's hard to imagine voting against a bill that would reopen the government after 40 years of total chaos inflicted by the Democrats. But what this really allows us to do as well is it gives us enough time to vote on the other 9 appropriations bills that we have yet to vote on to get the government funded the way it should be funded, with 12 individual appropriations bills. That's called regular order. It's something conservatives have been pushing for, including myself, for a long time. And I think that we're going to be right on track to do that.
Well, it's about time. I mean, this process has been absolutely embarrassing. If you want to teach your kids about budgeting, you're not going to teach them to follow what the House and the Senate have done here. But Congressman, some Democrats, despite how this is all spun out of control for them, are still maintaining that this was all worth it. Check this out.
Is the shutdown worth it? Yeah, I think so. I hate it. But yeah, it was worth it. Definitely. We got people to pay attention to the fact that this is a traumatic, in many cases, life or death situation for people all over this country. Was the shutdown worth it? I think it was.
Congressman, do you think most Democrats in their heart of hearts really feel this way, that it was worth inflicting this pain upon the American people? Their constituents, by the way, many are their constituents.
You know, it is utterly delusional to say that this shutdown was worth it. Democrats got nothing out of this. And, you know, whenever we began this, the House passed a clean continuing resolution. We didn't fill it with Republican or conservative priorities as much as we would like to. We said, let's keep the lights on. Let's have policy debates. But let's do that when we're not holding the federal government hostage and the American people hostage. Democrats did this to give health care to illegal aliens, to fund NPR and PBS, to pay for global LGBTQ awareness campaigns, and ultimately it was really about saving Chuck Schumer's rear end because he's worried about getting primaried from his left from AOC. This is the party of AOC. It's the party of Zohran Mamdani. That's what we're up against. You know, this shutdown, it's amazing to me that any Democrat would say that this was worth it. They got nothing out of it. This is total political nihilism. Democrats creating chaos while Republicans are trying to govern.
Congressman, something else that's been happening in your state of Texas is a recent visit by Gavin Newsom. I mean, he decided to go right into the lion's den of red Texas and make his stand and say, I'm the real champion of the people. I'm going to fight for you. Your reaction to the crowd, he got a pretty decent sized crowd in Texas, but he made that visit to send a message that all you Democrats in red states, don't worry, we're coming.
Well, the American people can see through all of this. They know good and well that the party of the blue dog Democrats is dead. This is the party of radical Islamist communists like Zohran Mamdani. They know that the Republican Party is the party of the working class. The Republican Party is the party that is cutting your taxes, that's going to bring down the cost of health care, bring down the cost of living. President Trump has already brought inflation down from an average of 5% under Joe Biden to 3% where it is now, and we've got more to go. We've been delivering for the American people, and the American people can see that, and they know that we're the party that is looking out for them, not the Democrats.
Yeah, if it all worked, California would be the paradise that it was in like 1984, but it's not, unfortunately. We all love California, but that needs a rescue. We don't need him coming to rescue us. Congressman, thank you very much. Great to see you tonight.
Joining us now again, Republican lawmakers Mike Lawler, Claudia Tenney of New York. What were the people in your district saying? Claudia Tenney.
Look, people were very upset. They were very upset about this shutdown. They didn't see any reason for it. We got explaining that there was no reason for it. And I have to give credit to Speaker Mike Johnson and our leadership team for really keeping us on message and together and realizing that what the Democrats were asking for was an impossibility. And by the way, Sean, I heard you allude to before, you know, we could have given what they wanted, but they would have moved the football like Lucy moved the football. We would have continued to ask for more and more, and we never would have really stood up to them. And what we did was save the American people from excessive spending, inflation, and remember what they keep talking about. You know, their default position was to talk about the Unaffordable Care Act and affordability, but they created this. They're the arsonist that created the fire and now said the Republicans are at fault. They need to put the fire out. Adding more spending and doing the things they wanted to do was not the answer. So people in my district understood it. But guess who got hurt? As you said, the SNAP beneficiaries, people on WIC, real people who were truly needy, and our farmers who didn't get the money they were supposed to get through various loan programs. Everything was held up. And we're in the harvest season when this was all happening. So this is really important to my district, which is the 5th largest ag district in the entire United States, believe it or not, in upstate New York. And we just got snow yesterday. So this has been hard on everyone. And that's what I think the people were really complaining about. And travel, obviously, was a huge issue. But like this shuts our government down, and it's all to counter Trump, and it's to hurt the good economy that's coming. When we pass the Trump tax cuts, this renewal, that is going to energize the economy. They were trying to stop that. They will do anything and everything to take back power at no cost. It doesn't matter who they hurt in order to hurt this economy so that they can, disrupt the midterms and get back in power. That's all this was about. This was about stopping our economy from taking off. And we did pretty well in spite of all that.
Hey, West Michigan, I'm just checking back in again tonight ahead of our critical vote. Tonight, the House is poised to vote on a Senate-passed deal to reopen the government by extending funding through the end of January. Instead of passing a real budget, they're just kicking the can down the road after all of this pain and suffering of the shutdown. Since the beginning of this debate, I have been clear. I will vote on a funding package for our country, even if it doesn't have everything I like, if Republicans address their healthcare crisis. My inbox is full of stories from constituents who literally do not know how they will afford their health insurance as critical ACA credits expire at the end of this year. Remember, without these credits, premiums will rise by as much as 200%. This didn't have to happen. Republicans had a choice: extend the credits or shut down the government. They chose at every single turn the most painful option for the American people, literally opting to starve people rather than provide affordable health care. I fought till the end to get this bill in a good place. Just last night, I introduced numerous bipartisan amendments that would lower health care costs. Republicans could have accepted even one or two, but they didn't. They rejected every single one. They had a choice, and they chose to leave the American people high and dry. Tonight's bill is a raw deal for the American people and a boon for billionaires. I'm voting no.